So when I was thinking about this series in what would be the part 2, I broke down bullying into 3 things. Really mental, physical, and the emotional parts of how bullying might show up. Not only with your family, but in the workspace as well. But primarily, I'm just focusing on family for this video. And I want to start with the mental aspects of bullying and how that shows up. Words, can be cutting. In corporate world, they often use as, oh, he's poking me. That is a way of bullying. It's a way of bringing people down a notch, you see. So how people talk to you. So I'll give you an example. I told you in the first part that my brother and my sister bullied me from being a little girl. I was always picked on and bullied, not only because I was the youngest, but also quite different than how they were. And I always saw things very differently. And one of the things that I used to do, which I learned very quickly not to do, is I would share my dreams, things that I really wanted to do that, nobody in my neighborhood was doing. So I think I must have been like 11 or 12, and I was around the patio coffee table outside and talking with my sister and my best friend at the time and my mom, and I was sharing my dreams like, I am gonna go play with the elephants. And that seems like such a weird thing for a little kid to do, but I always was a big dreamer, and elephants was something that I wanted to go do. And my sister said, you're not gonna do that. You're never gonna go do that. You will never do anything like that. I don't even know why you said that. Mind you, I didn't remember any of this conversation until many years later. I was talking with my good friend, and she brought up the remembering of that, the memory, by telling me about this whole situation that took place after I came back from volunteering with the elephants for 10 days in Thailand. So one of the things that I learned to do to cope with the words was to not share my dreams with anybody, which I'm very close to the chest, if you will, with my dreams and aspirations. I share them with other people who are dreamers and have big aspirations. I don't share them with everybody. I don't want to dilute them, but that's how words come into play in bullying. The other thing that I see so frequently in families, and it's so painful, is ignoring each other. They don't return phone calls, don't return texts, they give you the silent treatment, and that is one of the most toxic ways in which you can hurt a family member, is to shut them out, to ignore them, to pretend they don't even exist. And people do it and they don't even think that they're toxic because they think, well, I'm not telling them what I think. But they are sending a very loud message, and it's very hurtful to the person on the other side. It is one of the most brutal things that I've seen happen repeatedly with clients is family members who just cut each other out. And it's fine to not talk to one another, but it's okay to have a closing conversation as well. They don't have to agree with it, but at least you have that. Most often than not, there's usually somebody who does something that somebody doesn't like, and they're out. Leaving people out. I remember my brother had a whole Christmas event at his house for family. I was in college, and I, as most people, go home for college, and everybody was invited to his home for college with the exception of me. I was not invited. So not inviting people is a way to bully them. So I didn't go for Christmas. Did I miss out? No, my feelings were hurt, but I knew where I stood with him. Was he trying to be hurtful? I don't know. I don't even care what he was trying to do. All I know is that not inviting somebody is a tactic to make them feel small. And that was something that my brother did my entire life. He would always bring people down so he would feel bigger. And him not inviting me was just another technique in my mind of him leaving me out and trying to make me feel bad. The other thing that happened often in my life is My sister would try to befriend my friends and become the one confidant. It was really just a weird mix of really shitty boundaries, okay? Like, it's nice to have your friend that's your go-to person without your family being mixed in. So bad boundaries and trying to befriend your friends usually is a way and a tactic to get back in some way. Like, take time away from the person that you enjoy spending time with. Little things like that are very bullying to you mentally. They try to take things away. And it could be a friend, it could be time, it could be energy, it could be money from your parents. What they think about is, I may not want these things, but I don't want her or him to have what I want and what they want. So anything that makes you getting a little bit higher from their perspective is bullying. So you might want to check in with yourself if you have any of those barriers in your own mind. And do you do them, or are somebody doing them to you? You want to just do a mental scan and see if those things have happened to you. And if you agree, I would be happy to hear from you. Please join the Facebook group. But the next point that I want to talk about is the physical bullying. And so one thing that I want you to keep in mind as far as physical bullying is that it's not just the punching, the hitting, the slapping, and the pulling of the hair. Those are ways in which we physically bully others. But another way is, think of it in the material form. It could be borrowing things and not returning them. Others stealing. Some people might beg, borrow, or steal just to keep things away from you or from them. If you're doing these things, if you're the bullier and you're watching this, or you're getting bullied, those are things that you would want to keep an eye out for. Somebody that takes something from you without asking is a way of taking from you in a physical form. The other is somebody who might keep things physically from you just so you go without. So I remember I did this huge event and I raised $80,000, and I was the leader of this group. I raised $80,000 in a 24-hour period, and the entire group went up on stage and they gave trophies to every single person, and then they said they didn't have enough for me. And even though I was the leader and the primary one who did the strategy and the plan and got the money, and then some of the members of the team were going to be okay with me going without. The vast majority of them were. And then I stepped up and said I was the leader, and somebody said, oh, give her a trophy. And they moved the trophies around. I don't know how they did it, but I ended up getting a trophy for raising the $80,000. But the interesting thing is that there were members of that team that were jealous that I was able to raise that much money in such a short period of time, that they were okay with me going without. Even though one of the primary members didn't do their end of the bargain. They did not do what they committed to, and they committed to it repeatedly, and we probably could have raised over $100,000 had they done that. But they took their trophy. So bullying can show up in so many unique ways, but physical, you want to just think of manifestation. So you have an awareness of these things. Okay, so emotional bullying. It happens all the time in families, and oftentimes we don't even realize that we're being bullied. At least I didn't. I was in my 40s before I was willing to look at bullying and my own life and how I was treated. And it's not to label other people a bully. I want to say that again. It's not about labeling other people, but it's about labeling a behavior so you can understand it and make different choices for yourself. But it's really important that you have an awareness so you can do something different. And I want to share a short story about how I became aware. As I said, I was in my 40s and I was doing the horse work, the peak leadership in the Apex program, and I was working with some colleagues, and I had this experience of this horse that was had some boundary issues. And so I would be talking with my colleagues and the horse would come up, even though I didn't invite the horse to come. So I would send the horse away, and then I would be talking to my colleagues again, and then here the horse wanted to be right in the middle of everything. Oftentimes with people who are bullying, right? They meddle into things. And the horse came up from behind and like tugged on my shirt. And I thought, what the heck is this horse doing? And I pushed them away, and I kind of laughed and giggled like, isn't that cute? And like pushed him away. And then the next time the horse came up, he actually snipped at my behind. And now I was like, I could have gotten hurt and it would have not felt so good. And clearly this horse has some boundary issues. And then I was saying to myself, well, what is this really the message for me in this situation? And I looked at my life, both in work and in personal life, and I looked, where is somebody biting me in the butt? Literally and figuratively, so I can stop this. Because this horse was showing me that this was happening. And I know this might sound like a weird story to you, but for me, it was the way that I could see how my sister was treating me. And it wasn't until that horse showed it to me in a way that was so easy, so gentle, so funny in a way, and not dangerous, but potentially dangerous in a way for me to look at my life. Now, in that situation, I actually used that as an opportunity to change the behavior where my sister and my brother were having really horrible, I would say shitty boundaries with me. I set clearer boundaries to where they couldn't hurt me and do things that I was allowing them to do to me that were putting me in a potential dangerous situation. So this horse was a gift for me, and to look at my life. I also looked at my career and said, well, where is somebody at work biting me in the butt? And you know, there was somebody, and it was just a different way to look at things. The thing about emotional bullying is that the other person will do whatever possible to keep you from being in your joy, in your happiness, living your life fully. They want to take from you. See, the thing about bullying is that it's always an ego thing. And every single one of us has an ego, but that's why it's so hard for us to admit that we've been bullied, or at least on my own behalf. I didn't want to admit that I was being bullied, because then if I admitted that, then I would have to see my sister and my brother as different than this illusion of a big sister that I wanted to have, who was supportive and kind and encouraging. She was none of those things. But that's what I was always hanging on and hoping for. I always looked for the older brother that was supportive and go for it, Kiana, you can do anything. I got none of that. But what this horse situation allowed me to do was to see them for who they really were. You see, bullying is a way for us to wake ourselves up and acknowledge, to see who around us is not supporting or encouraging or wanting us to be in our fullest, in our highest potential. And our family often does these things and they are not even aware of it. And it's really, again, not about them, it's about you raising your own awareness. The other thing that I will say, that in my own personal experience with emotional bullying, is that people will try to break you in ways that just make you want to cry. And I distinctly remember this one experience, and this is before my mother passed away, but she was getting sick at this point. We didn't know what she had, but she wasn't feeling well. And my sister had my niece with her, and I had made plans to schedule to see my niece before I was going out of town. And they were so young, they didn't know what was going on. They were pawns in this manipulation. And my sister really played it out to keep my niece away from me, from spending time. I was there for 2 hours in the sweltering heat. I got blistered, that's how much I was sunburned, waiting for them to come to the beach. We were gonna have a beach day. And my niece got there after they had been taken on this ridiculous journey of running all these errands and going to the grocery store when they should have been with me. playing at the beach without my sister. Instead, my sister kept them captive, if you will. They had no idea about this, and left me sitting just waiting and waiting and waiting. Now, yes, I was bothered, but I just really wanted to spend time with my niece. I got to spend maybe 30 minutes with her, and then I had to leave to go on a trip. But I distinctly remember sitting in the car driving and completely breaking down, because when my sister brought the kids, she completely ignored me as if I didn't even exist, because she didn't think that I should be going on my trip, that I should have spent the whole day. You see, going back to the first part about expectations and, you know, obligation, and you should be doing these things. And my sister was basically wanting me to feel bad and guilty for taking care of myself. And I refused. But what it did do, you know, whenever there is a breakdown, there's always a breakthrough right there waiting for it, if you are present to the awarenesses. And I had a breakthrough, a real moment of clarity of nobody is going to treat me in that way. And it's not about me protecting myself, but more about being aware of what is it that I'm going to allow to transpire in my life. Now, unfortunately, that means that I don't spend as much time with my sister, but I see her really clearly. And that's what's really important, is I see her for who she is, and I make decisions based on that. No longer am I stuck in the illusion of wanting that big older sister who I can look up to and admire, who's going to take me under their wing and show me a way. And that doesn't exist in my world, in that relationship with my sister and or my brother. So it's important to know that. The other thing that I want to say is fear is often used as a ploy to get people to do particular things. And so what I would offer to you is, don't be afraid. Don't make your decisions based out of fear. This is the best way to get in control of the emotional thing, is to notice how you're feeling. And if you're not sure how to do that, I want you to know that I'm not going to leave you hanging here. I have created a Being in Sync inner knowing process. It's a simple process for you to go through, and that you can actually clear and get rid of these old patterns that keep repeating over and over again. And it's super simple and easy. And if that process isn't enough for you, and you're really not sure, because it takes a few times before you get it, then you can certainly book with me and set up a session. I'd be happy to walk you through the process and do some healing work with you. All this to say is that if you're one of the lucky ones and you didn't have a family where you were bullied, kudos to you. But there are so many of us out there in this world where we've been kind of cut out and made to find our own path, and we skip to another beat, if you will. There's a place for you here at Being in Sync, and you're not alone. And I just really wanted to get some information out on this taboo topic of bullying within families, because I think it happens so frequently, but it's almost taboo to talk about it. And I want to just kind of pull the veil back on those taboo items and really allow you all to know that you're not alone and that there is a way out. And I look forward to hearing from you about what this video has meant to you, and if it resonates, or if you have something more to add or share, please join me in the Being in Sync Facebook group. Cheers.